It's a beautiful Monday morning and we are still talking all things regarding yesterday's Happy International Women's Day. However, the power of sisterhood and women grouping together is something we have seen the potency of in Mzansi. Yet to many women, the concept of feminism seems foreign and seems to have little bearing on their lives. Now, the truth is, feminism touches on issues as wide-ranging as motherhood, sex and race, and it is so important that we understand its objectives. Now, in light of yesterday, International Women's Day, we're asking, how are sisters supporting each other in this modern age?
Now, this morning, we are joined by the director of 1000 Women, One Voice, Caroline Peters, and sexual health activist and advocacy specialist, Nomtika, Mjwana, to help us discuss this topic, and we'd love to hear your questions and comments as well. So head over onto our Facebook page, drop a comment on this post, and we will absolutely engage with you live. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. An early start, right?
Very early. Let us start off by saying Happy International Women's Day for yesterday to you, lovely ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for this topic, which I think is so crucial in speaking about, because for the past 10 to 15 years, we've started seeing a more active conversation around feminism. Do you think that is because more people are becoming aware or understanding the objectives of what feminism really is?
Definitely. If I look back, I've been in the development sector or feminist my whole life, I think, as a child, and as a woman, an older woman, there's Nikita. So many years ago, when I became an activist, in fact, many of us women over 50, we were activists before we became feminists.
Yes.
If you look at pre-94, we were all part of the struggle, so we were activists. So of course, we took on that role as gender activists and then as feminists. So for me, feminism looked a lot different. 30 years ago, we were still all wearing cargo pants and short hair and boots. And if you're a feminist, you identify with this butch, the masculine identity. Yeah. Feminism has evolved. I'm now okay with wearing blue nails and red lipstick. And my feminism is not what I wear and who I am and whatever how. And it's evolved so much. But before, feminism was seen as these angry women that who hate men, that wants to eliminate men. For the record, you know, I love men. I have a wonderful father. I think that I am because of a man, because of my father. My father gave me identity. So I always embrace that as well. So feminism has definitely evolved over the last 30 years or so.
Yeah. I love that we started way back to how it's evolved to 2020 now. Yes. Nomtika, I want to ask you, how would you describe modern feminism?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm describing modern feminism. I do think I am definitely, in my understanding and as Caroline has spoken, in the ways in which feminism has evolved and sort of shifted over time. Feminism today calls us to account a lot more.
Yes.
It's a lot more around accountability.
Yes.
I think the conversations have grown tremendously. There's a lot of discussion around whether feminism works or not, but there's also a lot of critiquing around what is this feminism and who is it for, right? And if we're talking about women, which women? Are we inclusive of transgender women? Are we talking about women who are really disproportionately affected by a lot of these issues, who are marginalized, who are in rural settings, who are migrant, who are sex workers, who are wanting to access abortion services? So there's like a whole lot of conversations to be had around the issue of feminism and how intersectional it is, as that's another term that's been coming up quite a lot. And so I think we've really shifted from a very surface level understanding of, oh, women want 50-50 of what, 50-50 of what, and for who, and what about sexual minorities in that sense. And so I think feminism just generally today calls us to account, but also in the feminist spaces, there's been a lot of healing, there's been a lot of continuous fighting. So feminists are challenging the conversation, are challenging each other, but at the same time, we're helping each other heal, right? We're helping each other recollect, we're helping each other reflect on what the world looks like today and how we can much better shape it for the future, starting now.
We learn and we unlearn every
Absolutely,
day,
absolutely.
And it's part of feminism. I love the fact that you also touched on intersectionality.
Exactly.
Because there are things to consider like race, age, history. As black women, our feminism is different from a white one.
Absolutely,
I just want to come in exactly. That was going to be my point. White women feminism and black women feminism is completely different. As a black woman, I'm okay with a male leadership. And it's not that we want to. And you must remember the institution before was dominated by white females. And then how do we allow our black sisters into that space? So feminism is all around that. How do I, as a black woman, now identify in those spaces, because those spaces were previously occupied by white females. And before it was white gay females, if I can say that. And so for me, as a black woman, how do I enter those spaces without feeling that the white woman is speaking on my behalf?
Absolutely.
Yes, you know. So for me, feminism, and for me, if I say I'm a feminist, I accept my sister, whether she is color, creed, religion, whoever she identifies with, as heterosexual. Sorry. Those words escape me. No matter how she identifies. If she identifies as a woman, she's my sister. You know. So yeah. And I also want to just add there. It's a myth that women don't support each other. It's a myth, and everybody, we speak on platforms about those PhD syndrome. It's not true. You know, we have seen how collectively as women, when we get together, since 1956 with a march, where women of all different religions, class, race got together, and they were able to for the Dom Pass. To say that we had it with the Dom Pass. You know, that was a collective as women. We have seen in August 2018 when we had a shutdown here, total shutdown. We have seen the big movements that came along. I mean, there's many other movements I can mention that when we work as collective, how things have changed. You know, I want to just come in there and say to you, it is said that when women fight, we are cattish. We're okay. There's okay. We disagree. We all four of us sitting here has got different backgrounds. So for me, if we disagree, we're not cattish. We disagree. There's no male term for disagreement. It's called disagreement. That's it when two males. But if me and you disagree, we cattish. You know. So obviously again.
Yeah, I think there's something beautiful where you say there's power in numbers, and that's all about feminism. It's about supporting, and that's what we're asking you today. How are sisters supporting each other in the modern age? We'd love to absolutely hear your questions and comments for Caroline and Nomtika. So head on over to our Facebook page, drop a comment on this post, and we would love to engage with you. We continue this conversation a bit later on.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast show. This is Expresso right here on SABC3. Now, it's a Monday and we're talking all things relationships. And also, we are joined today by the director of 1000 Women, One Voice, Caroline Peters, and sexual health activist and advocacy specialist, Nomtika Mjwana. They are joining us to help us discuss the state of feminism in South Africa today and how sisters are supporting each other in Mzansi. We absolutely love hearing from you, so make sure to keep those comments going on our social media platforms using the hashtag Expresso Show.
Talking about that before the break, we were saying feminism is not about your sex, your race, your religion, color, all of that, but actually about support and standing together as numbers. How are you guys seeing, you know, the platform of women standing together and supporting one another in South Africa?
I definitely think, especially given the fact that there's been a lot of issues around gender-based violence and femicide in the country, which is something we can never overlook in this context. A lot of women, through movements like the Total Shutdown movement, Me Too movement, and a lot of other hashtags that a lot of people were not friendly and happy with. We've seen how women have really held each other in those spaces and used those platforms. And that's just on like a digital platform, right? But also in civil society movements. I think as people that work in civil society, we've seen how women just generally come together and mobilize for good. I'm in the reproductive health movement, and I've seen how advocacy towards, you know, sexual and reproductive health services has really grown just within civil society movements. And unfortunately, the one thing we definitely need to work on is the resourcing, and that's where issues of race and class come into play. A lot of organization and civil society movements that are led by black young women, for example, struggle to get funding, or black women in general. And so it's kind of like you need a white face to get resources to do the issues, to advance the issues that affect you. But a lot of women have been generally working around that. So I think it's a growing space, but in essence, women have been doing that, particularly in civil society. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yes. Just to latch on what Kitsa says is that, you know, when we look at feminism and how we as sisters support each other, and often we, like I said before the break, we are seen as Cartesian, and it's not so. I mean, we are seen as women in civil society. If I take it back again, I want to put it in the context of my age. Before, and I think women has always had the ability to mobilize, and later on it became advocacy, and other words were coined and added to it. However, my mother and our mother's mother and all our mothers has been doing this. If you look at Stockfell, take at that in our communities. Look at how women mobilize each other. I remember as a child, my aunties raised me. You know, so when your mom is the one in the road that goes out to work, the other mothers in the road will take care of you. You know, so often we say that women do not, and we do. We see it in the bigger movements. There's Shukumisa, there's Shai's Fuba, there's been the Western Cape Network on Violence Against Women, all these spaces, but I also want to add then, and I know we're speaking about International Women's Day, but we've had men that has been champions in our fight, in this gender equity. And I want to commend the men that is, and yes, they don't need gold stars and noddy badges because they're supposed to be doing this. However, I want to say that we have men that has been supportive of us in our roles. There's men in all spaces and men feminists. And because if we look at what feminism is, it is not me just as a woman. Feminism is a what do you call it?
It's all-encompassing.
It's all-encompassing, yes. So for me, we have men that has got that is feminist, and so on, men that support our work. However, as women, we as a collective have the power. I often say to women, we don't know how powerful. If we look right now today in Mexico, the women has come together and says, you're going to see on the 9th of March what the world will look like without women because of the violence and femicide and gender-based violence. Today in Mexico, all women have down tools. They're not going to shop. They're not doing anything. So we know that feminism for me is intersectional. Like Kita said earlier, feminism is a state of mind for me as a woman. We have men that support us through our feminist roles, and yeah.
Ah, man, I mean, it's a very important conversation to have, and it's broad in spectrum, and there's so many things to touch on. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time, you know, to continue the conversation, but thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. Yeah, man, we absolutely love hearing from you. Make sure to head on over to our social media platforms and use the hashtag Expresso Show. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.